So the first thing that we're going to want to do is get rid of everything that's not relevant to the texturing part of this. And we'll start by just going ahead and renaming our collection to Shrinkwraps just so that we can organize things a little bit easier. And then everything in these two collections is not relevant, so we can just go ahead, select all of these and delete them. And we don't need the camera, and we don't need any of these reference images anymore to model from, so we can just select them by similar and delete them all. And so there's something weird working in 4.1, and it might happen in 4.2, is that there's sharps marked on all of our edges now, and I think it's because of the new shading model that Blender uses. So we just want to go ahead and remove all those, as it's going to interfere with our subdivision surface modeling techniques. So it's pretty easy. We'll just go back and put our creases to be visible, and we'll go ahead, select all of our meshes, and we'll tab into edit mode, and we'll just use Control E to clear all of our sharps. So before we jump into doing any of our texture baking or texturing in Quixel, there's just a few things that we need to clear up with my 2 years of hindsight and modeling. So we'll just go ahead and we'll turn off our subdiv surface just to make it easier. And what we want to do is we just want to go clear up the topology in some of the curved surface areas. As you can see here, there's a bit of a mismatch between the vert count on the interior and the exterior parts of this. And at the moment, with this being our low poly model, it's just not going to bake nicely with our normal maps from the high poly down to the low poly. So we can just go through and fix this area up with a bit of basic retopology, as the initial idea when I first recorded this was that we were just going to apply a one-time subdivision to the whole model, but that's not very optimal. And so you see we've got the same problem up here where we've only got 3 edges to try to support a curved surface, which once again you're just going to get a whole lot of normal baking errors when we try to do that, and it's just not going to look nice. So we'll also go and populate that area with some more topology just to make it more rounded. And then you'll also see on some of the areas we've got very round or large rounded bevels on some of the edges, so we can just tighten that up also just to improve the normal bake that we're going to get. And then also on the bottom of the helmet here, the base plate isn't actually connected to the rest of the mesh, so we can just very easily integrate that back in. And the back side of the helmet isn't connected in all places, so I'll show you how we can retopologize the back of it to connect it all to make it one coherent mesh and get a nice and normal bake on the back part of the helmet as well. So we can go ahead and get started with our retopology. So just going into face select here, we're just going to go ahead and hide a handful just to isolate this loop that we're going to add in. And we'll just do that so we don't need to worry about the loop running through the greater length of our mesh. And we can just start to smooth this out using a relax operation here with our loop tools add-on. We can just do that for the rest of them as well, just to even everything out. And so that's given us a nice curved surface on our low poly mesh there, but you'll see we've sort of ruined the surface deforms at the back of the helmet there, but we can go ahead and fix that up by creating some additional support loops around all this. So what we can do is we can just go ahead and we can dissolve this edge, and just add in a loop, and we can connect things up using our knife tool. And let's see, we can just make a temporary sort of quad there. It's not perfect, but it's just going to hold things in as we start to add in topology to the side. And so we can just go and space out and make our vertice distribution a little bit nicer along here, and we can do the same along the back into this little crevice as well. And so that just looks a little bit nicer there now. And we don't really need to worry about the topology distribution in the crevice, because you're not really going to see any of that, and it's not going to affect the surface deforms of our normal bake. So coming to the side here, we can start to clean everything up here so that we have an even match on the inside and the outside. So we've got, what, 4 on the inside there. That hasn't really lined up properly. And then what, we've got like 3 on the inside. So there's a complete mismatch between how much curve is on the outside and how much is on the inside. So we can just start to drag around some of our edges here. We just match these two at the top with the crevice cutout that we have in the middle. And then we can just start to do the same for the other edges, and we can just start to line them up with the vertices that are on the exterior, just to make everything line up nicely, and then we can start to add in more topology once we've lined everything up. But as you can see, even from moving these around, we had barely any topology to form a curved surface to begin with. And so you can see that this gap isn't even anymore, so we just want to try to make it as even as possible. We can just eyeball everything, but if we just go change our transform point to active, and then we change our orientation to normal, let's go select these edges here, so that the second selection is the innermost edge. And we just drag this up along the Z normal, and just until it looks right, to close that in a little bit. So that's looking nice, but I just think at the top here it's still a little bit too narrow. So we'll just go in and select these edges here, and we can just drag these down a little bit till it looks right. I think that looks pretty good. What we're going to do here is we're just going to change some of the topology below so that we can start to add in more to the curve above. And same as what we did before, we'll just hide some faces just to isolate our edge loops. And we can just make that a proper quad. But we don't need so much topology along here, so we can just go ahead and we can dissolve these two edges along here. And we might just do it on the other edge instead, because the end-gon and the crevice there isn't going to cause us any problems. And so then we can just go ahead and dissolve this edge, add in a loop. No, so we don't really want the loop going the whole way down the length of the helmet there. So what we can do is we can just go ahead and we can adjust this loop to make it more of a support loop for the edge on the left there. So we'll just select it the whole way down, and then we'll just do an edge slide and just bring that in a little bit. And then we can just change where this edge is going. So we'll just slide that top edge in as well. And keep everything fairly even. And then now when we add in more loops, we're not having it go the whole length down, and we can control things a little bit better. We'll just go ahead and hide this face like before so that we're not running loops the whole way through, just make things more manageable. And then we can start to connect everything up. And there's going to be an end-gon here, but it's going to be covered up by this detail, so we won't see any of the negative surface deforms that we get in there anyhow. And so we can probably add in a little bit more. So I want another loop in there, but I don't want it to run the whole way through, so we'll just go ahead and dissolve some edges. Check a loop in there, and this is going to form a triangle on the corner here, but it's not going to cause too many problems for us. And we can just start to see what we've done, start to space and relax out these edges here. And we can probably do it for the back. We can do it all in one go. Just select all these out. Oops. Yeah, that looks about good. And relax. Cool, looks good. We can just go clean up this one here, space it out. Alright, and so we're going to need to start to clean up everything on the side. So we'll check on a loop, just hook it up with the rest of it. And we can probably actually turn this triangle into a quad. It's not going to make too much of a difference, but we can just do it for the sake of doing it. And actually, I'm just going to go ahead and disable these shrink wraps. I think it's making things run a bit sluggish. Just slide that back. And just space it all out to make it look nice. It's still running a bit slow. I might just go ahead and just hide everything else that isn't the helmet here. Just hopefully it speeds everything up for me. So we've got all the topology we need on the right side now, so we can just go ahead and clean up some of these edges. Actually, we don't want that inside because that's our support edge. So we'll just go ahead and select all these and space these out and bring that back in. So yeah, we've got a big nasty n-gon in there, but it's no problem. Now you see we've got nice even distribution on the outside and inside for our low poly mesh. And so now we can start to address the left side. Probably hide a fair bit of topology in there, since once again it's not going to be seen. So we'll just go ahead and same method and just limit where it's going to end up. Yeah, we can probably change that to become the new support loop for the top part. And so what we'll do is we'll use these verts to create a new edge. Just dissolve that. And we can probably do the same, just move everything along one. And just dissolve that one there for the time being. What I think we can do, check in another loop, and so that brings back the support loop that we had. And just start to space everything out down here to keep everything organized. And just wonder, I think we can probably take these to the far edge. Just try that. Yeah, I think that still works well. So we can do that the whole way across for this area. Just bring it up. To the top part after, so we'll space these out and just relax that. It looks a little bit nicer. It's a bit denser, but it's alright. It's not going to cause us any problems. It's still fairly well optimized. And we can just go ahead and we can start to select out our curves, and we'll just do it before the point below the crevice. Grab that and that one there. We can just go ahead and start to work out the top just so we keep nice distribution along here as well. Oops. Just select these. And I don't think we'll do it on the last one, so we'll just space these out and relax that. Looks pretty nice. And so we can probably just go ahead and fix up that area there. It's sort of long quads. And we've sort of got the same thing on the top here. We've got some like fairly stretched out topology up here, so we can just start to even this up now that we've got more topology flowing up here. It's this isn't the best topology I've ever seen, but it's just my old way of modeling. But you know, we can make do with what we've got and just fix things up a little bit here and make it work. And so things are looking a bit dense at the back here, so we'll just go through and space out these verts just to make everything look a little bit nicer. It starts to look a little bit nicer for us there. Just relax that up as well. Just do a cut there, just make it easier. And we can just probably slide this vertex along. Just clean everything up in that area, make it look a little bit nicer. Now, I don't love the fact that we've got a pole on the curve there. We want to transform this into more of a support loop around this whole thing. And so we can just start to dissolve where that pole exists and start to bring in something that starts to resemble a support loop. And so if we just make a cut down here, that runs the length of the edge. This is a bit funky. But we don't want it to run the whole way through, so it's okay. At least it's stopping it there, so we can come back and fix that up. And so we can just try to see how this looks. So far we've only moved the pole, we haven't actually put a support loop in, but just want to see. It's looking pretty nice. I think the inside edge is a bit sharp, but we can adjust that. So if we just go ahead and hide this little quad triangle that we've got, we can probably change this, maybe make it resolve into an n-gon, as the topology here is fairly flat, so you're not going to see that there's an n-gon on that surface there. And we don't need that edge to run the whole way through, so we can just leave it like that. You can see on the subsurf that it's not really affecting anything, so yeah, that'll be fine. And then we can just start to distribute and space out this new edge. And this will probably help us clean up that more stretched quad that we've got around here. Let's see how this looks once we space it out. So yeah, that's pretty good. So we can probably just continue spacing everything out along the top here. Just continue along here. Oops. And yeah, we'll do it for the last one as well here. And just in the crevice, just to keep things a little bit consistent. And I just forgot about the inside one there. We'll just do that as well. Cool. That looks good. We can probably just adjust these edges here, just bring them in a little bit closer to this detail, just so we don't have things so stretched, and just slide that in. And we've got so much topology at the back, we can probably just, yeah, space those out. Do it for the rest, and that should give us nice distribution up along the top. Yeah, that looks much nicer. And just clean it up at the back here as well. Yeah, I think that looks much nicer. It's not perfect, but it's going to work for what we need. So we can just go select this outside edge, so we can just start to creasing up that corner on the inside here, just because it's fairly rounded at the moment. So we'll just do an edge slide and start to bring this in. That looks pretty nice. It's not too close. Just show you where that's moved. It's looking pretty nice, and we probably just need to clean up what's going on in the middle here. So we can just go ahead and just delete this, and we'll just redo it from the start. Just make things easier. And so we can just bring this vertice across and just start to block out what we need with some n-gons here. Don't need those, just dissolve those. Oops. Oops. There we go. And all this is very flat, so we don't need particularly nice topology in here. So we can just start to cut things up. And so we can probably just make some cuts across. Yeah, that'll work. And just do it at the top. So that's pretty well all quads. Just don't like the little bit of pinching we're getting there, so we can just put an edge in. That sort of keeps things more even. And I'm not liking how hard this edge is creased because of the amount of topology surrounding it, so we'll just go take this. Just going to remove the crease altogether, and we'll just try 0.1. No, it's probably a little bit too much. I think 0.3 looks nice. It's still a harder edge than the rest of them, but I think that's got just a nice profile to it now. And so just jumping to the back here, so we want to make this a part of the rest of the mesh. As you'll see at the moment, it's just clipping directly into the back. And we've actually sort of already got pretty good topology set up to start to join things in, but it's all this interior faces that we want to get rid of. And so I'll show you a fairly simple method to fix this up. And so we're mainly going to be using snapping and edge slides for this. So we'll just snap this down on the Z to the face. And then it's going to be a little bit trickier to do this part since it's a bit more detailed, but same principle, just snap that down to the face, and we can dissolve these vertices into one another, so we can just merge those together. So I can sort of see where that's going to cut off. So we can probably just simplify this and delete these inner faces. And just while I'm thinking about it, just do these side bits here. Just snap all these down. Okay. And then I'm just going to need to extrude these verts back, so probably extrude it along their normal and snap it back to there. That's gone way past where I want it to. Okay, let's try to just do it manually without the snapping. Just put that face in there, link these up. And we'll just adjust this so it's not so wonky. And try to make it more of a flat face. It's pretty good. And we'll just go ahead and crease these up so it looks all nice. And so we can just go ahead and delete these faces here and start to connect things up on the side. Okay, so this vert isn't actually a part of the other mesh yet, so we can just go ahead and subdivide this. And we can just merge these together. Just make sure it matches up. Do that. And just fill in a triangle there, that'll be fine. It's on a flat surface. And then a quad, and then we just need to resolve that n-gon, so yeah, we can just add in a loop down there and just connect that up to clean things out. And I don't think that should affect. Nah, I think that looks pretty alright. I think the Shrinkwrap should help fix anything up along there. And so we can just start to build this out. And and then we just need 2 more loops through the top there. Just fill those in. Cool. Yep, and we can just go ahead and check how this is looking. Just crease up these ones at the back here. Yep, I think that's looking pretty nice. I just don't think the side here is completely flat, so we'll just scale these in on the local Z here to be 0. There we go. And that's all flat surface now. So with that out of the way, we can start to address the bigger part of this process. So we've already pushed one of these down. And so we've got 2 edges running in, and we've only got 1 here, so we'll probably need to go ahead and add in some more loops. Just merge these together. Cool. And probably just go ahead and delete some of these faces up the back here, just to save confusion of what we're working on. And just add in another loop just to start to line these up. Merge these together. And so this is pretty well going to be the process for this entire area. It's a bit tedious, but it will pay off with some fairly nice topology in the end. And so there's no real wrong or right way of doing this. I'm just trying to match up the poly counts at the moment. So we can just snap this one down and merge these in. And so you could probably do this with a boolean if you wanted to, but I tried that and it was too messy. I think this was an easier way of teaching it. So we just snap that down and merge these back in. There's that. So cool, and now we just need to resolve these. So we've got that running through the middle, so we don't want to affect any of that, so we can just deselect those and sort that out later. So we'll just slide this across until we start to see the vert poke out of the top there. So I can see the one at the bottom. It's just cropped up there, and we just want to do the same for this one here. Just slide it across. So it's not quite coming out yet. So we'll just both of these here. Just until we can see both of them. There we go. Cool. And so we can just start to clean up a bit of the topology here and start to merge these together. And so we're making a bit of a ugly pole on the end of that try there, but it's okay. We'll fix that up. And we've kind of got a lot of internal geometry still that's probably not too helpful to us. So we can just go ahead and start to delete this. And then, because we only need the stuff that we can see on the exterior, really. So we can just go ahead and select these, get rid of that. Oh, no, hang on. Probably need that one there. No, still a hole in it, so we'll just go back and delete those ones. Just try to make it a bit easier to know what we have to work with. And so we can probably merge that in. It's getting a little bit messy here, but we don't need those top faces. And we can just start to redirect a bit of this topology in here. Just start to dissolve some of these edges here. Just slide that in. And we'll just go ahead and select the faces around here because I just don't want to dissolve all the doubles just in case that merges anything that's close together. Create a bit of a problem here, but we can just dissolve that. That should be fine. We'll just go ahead and name these shrink wraps just to make it easier to know what I'm working with. So we'll just go mouthpiece for the front one here. And we can just call this back, just make it easier. And just turn these back off, just so it's not slowing things down for me. And turn off the subdiv as well. So, getting close, just need to resolve this top part here. So we'll just start to push this vertice down. So that's still not connected, so we can just merge that just to connect it together. We'll just crease up that edge so it looks nice. Same with this one here, just make it a bit of a stand-in option for now. And we can just try to clean, actually, I think a better way of doing this is if we just change where these are flowing, so we can just cut these across. I think this will just work a little bit nicer. Just dissolve that, and then we can come back and sort all that out later on. But for the time being, that's going to be a decent enough solution. And we can just go ahead and merge this vertice into the rest of it. And we're going to get to another point here that we're going to need to fix things up, and we'll just do the same thing. We'll just do an edge slide just until these vertices just poke through again. And see the one at the bottom, so we'll just bring the one out at the top here as well. Just line those up nicely, just start to merge. And so we can just start to clean up this area here. We can get rid of these internal faces because it's a little bit confusing. It's just bit too much in here. Just Okay, get rid of those. It just makes it a bit more clear as to what we're working on. We can just go and fill in this. And the topology is not great for this area by any means, but we can fix all that up in due time and just see how it resolves in our subdivision for the time being. It's pretty good. It's a bit of an error with what we've done, but we can probably just get rid of... Yeah, and probably just dissolve that edge, and I think it works just fine. And so it works for what we're doing, and so long as it works, that's all that matters. So we're just skipping ahead a little bit here, but we just know that this edge is going to resolve into the other edge in the detail here. So we can just go ahead and pull this down and just get these to line up. So just bring that down on the Z a little bit. And then, same as what we've already been doing, we can just start to do an edge slide, just so we can see that on the other side of the edge there. But it's not important right now, I just noticed it, so I figured we could fix it up. Now, we can go into the back here and delete this very back vertice, just clean that up and start to merge it into the rest of the mesh. And it's sort of stretching a bit on the left, so we can just reorganize our flow of topology here. And we can start to reorganize all of this on the left. So we'll just do the same as always and just do an edge slide until it crops up on the other side of the face. And then we want to add some more loops onto the left. So we can go ahead and chuck a loop in. Actually, if we hide the face just here, just isolate it. There we go. And so we can just go ahead and merge our vertices. And we'll do the same at the top just to bring this into the rest of the mesh. Merge that in, and then we can go ahead and dissolve our edge. Cool. And so we can just start to adjust everything in preparation for the other loops that we're going to need to add in. And so we can just go ahead and start to delete some more of the internal faces just to clean things up a bit, as those aren't going to contribute anything. I'll just go ahead and unhide this. I was trying to fill in a face. And so we can go ahead and we can start to slide this back edge up just so it starts to once again poke through on the other side of our faces. Cool. We can go ahead and just merge the furthest left vert here because we know that that's where that's going to have to sit anyway. And then we can just start to do some manual cleanup with the rest of the vertices to get everything to start to line up. And we're going to need this edge to have some more vertices, so we can just go ahead and subdivide that so we can start to merge the verts together. And then we can just do a little bit more cleanup here and just start to do edge slides. These vertices to line them up. And so we just need to start to fill in this gap. So we need some more topology down on the bottom here. So we can go ahead, delete this face, and let's just fill in the back face here on this little crevice. And go ahead, add in 2 more loops, and we can start to fill in these faces here. And, okay, well, we can just delete all those faces anyway, because those aren't contributing to anything, and then we can fill these ones in, and that actually resolves nicer than I thought it would. That actually gives a quad. It's a bit of a wonky quad, but for where it's located, I don't think it's going to cause any problems. And we've still just got some internal faces here, so we can just go ahead, delete those faces. And we can just start to slide this up so it's not sitting on such a hard angle, and just crease up our edges here. Do the same along the bottom edge here, just so it looks nice when we turn our subdiv back on. So that's looking much nicer. It's still not perfect because we've got an internal face. And you'll tell when you've got interior faces because you start to get some really weird shading on the subdiv. So it's pretty easy to pick up on, so we'll just go ahead and remove that one there. And so we just need to clean up the topology at the back here because it's all a bit wonky. So we can just go ahead, dissolve this edge here and add in a loop just to make that consistent. And we're sort of going to do this in like localized sections, I think would be the best way to describe it. Just need to clean this up as well because that's an annoying little quad. So we'll just turn that into a smaller triangle there. I think 2 years ago I had more of an aversion to using triangles somehow. So we still want that third edge to the left to sort of be a little bit more creased. And so we can just go ahead and clean up this end-gon that we've created. And so we can start to space all of this out now. So you just don't want to select both of the sides of the triangle, otherwise the spacing operation will go a bit weird. So we'll just do it on the top edge and then we can sort out the spacing on the bottom. And so then we can just move down bit by bit, just start to space out all the topology. I think we can probably take that the whole way along. We'll just see how this looks. Yeah, it looks pretty nice, so we can relax that up. And we can probably just change the flow of the topology here a bit and clean this up a little bit. It'll be a little bit tedious to go through and make these cuts, but it'll just result in nicer topology, just so it's not all skewed over to the left. And so that's actually going to resolve in a triangle. So what we can do is dissolve that, and we can probably just make a cut through the whole way down. It's probably a little bit unnecessary, but I just think it will resolve in a cleaner sort of result. So we'll just start to cut this up into sections, and we'll make that triangle just a little bit smaller once again, but I think this will just be a little bit nicer. It gives us a little bit more topology in the back, especially on a curved surface, which will be needed. And then we can just go between these points again and space that out. Yeah, and that distributes much nicer than what we had before. It's a lot more straight down as opposed to off to the left. Let's see how this one looks. So select these ones at the bottom, space those out. Yeah, it's probably a little bit more skewed to the left, but we'll just do it a space and relax for these top ones, and then the ones at the bottom here, we'll probably just manually fix these up because we don't really want to disturb this area too much. So we can just drag these in and out, and then we can space everything internally on these squared details just to try to keep it more consistent and avoid any mishaps with the space and relax operations here. And then for the furthest edge on the inside here, just for the back, we don't want it for the whole thing, we can just clean that up, just make it look a little bit nicer. We'll do the same for the inside part as well. And I've just noticed we've got two rogue creases at the back, and we're missing a crease on the back edge here. I just get easily distracted by things, so we can come back down. And so we've got a lot more topology in the back here to make this a lot healthier and make this all join together. And so we'll just use the same logic as before. We'll just use some edge slides to bring our verts just on the other side of these faces here. And so we'll just drag this one back. There, and do the same here. This one back. Nope, to the top. And this one's not contributing to anything. And so we can just grab these two and just merge these down into the last vertex here. That doesn't look great, but we can fix that. So what we're going to do instead is we'll just make a cut down, and we'll just start to, once again, redirect some of the flow of topology here. So while I'm thinking about it, we'll just space out these edges here just to keep it looking somewhat nice and even. Yeah, that works well. And yeah, I think that works. It sort of cuts out a bit of curvature down here, but it's not perfect, but I think it should be alright for what we want to do. So we can just fix up those so that those are cool. Alright, so we can start to integrate the very back parts here. So we can just merge these vertices in here, and we can start to delete more of the interior topology. Merging these down, it gives us a quad. It's not a nice quad, but it will just start to give us a bit of foundation here. And I think there's a bit of curvature on this edge, but I think we can get rid of it. It's not going to affect it too much. Actually, just thinking what we can do, because this has got a shrink wrap on it, so we can apply our shrink wrap there, and it will just straighten up the vertices on that very far back edge. And then we'll just bring it back in just to fix any of the surface deforms. I'll just use the same groups that we had before. And so you can see that's nice and straight along the back there, which is just going to make this easier to work with. Now, let's just spitball this a little bit. Let's go ahead and merge these together. And it's definitely not a great solution, but it just gives us a starting point. And so just fill this in with a big nasty N-gon. So we can just dissolve that edge, because we've already got a pole going on there, so we don't need more edges flowing into that one area. And so we're just going to want to redirect the flow of topology down here. So we'll just make this where things are going to start to funnel around the edge here. And we can start to cut in and around here to begin making our support loop. So we can just subdivide and start to cut in the rest of it. And we're still missing a little bit of topology there, but at the right. And now we can link that up, so now we're not having so much pressure on that one pole. And so what we've opened ourselves up to here is actually, we just need to fix up the supporting edge here. Actually, subdivide these individually, otherwise it will make additional topology that I don't want. So we'll subdivide these, connect them up. Oops, just connect that one there. And so what this has done for us is we'll just do an edge slide here, just make that a little bit more even. Now, what we can start to do is we can use our new bit of topology to start to connect everything up. So it's a bit of a mess here at the moment. And so what we could do is, actually we can probably add another loop down the bottom here. So we'll just go ahead and hide this face. And cut that along here. And then what we'll do is we'll take this at the top and we'll cut it across and just make it nice and straight. Actually, no. What we can do is we can cut this down into the top. Just dissolve that. And that's... Actually, no, we can cut it across to the top one instead. So we can just get rid of that and then bring this one to the previous one that we had. And so that's created an absolute mess, but you'll notice at the bottom here, we've just got enough topology to start to link everything up to the top. So we can just go through and clear out some of these edges that we don't need. Just start to cut everything across. So it's looking a little bit nicer. It's still a mess, and we've got a lot of N-gons lying around. We can start to resolve these. So we can start to, probably don't need to space that one. It's made a little bit of a change, but then we can space the inside loop, the support loop here. And just do a bit of cleanup, because this isn't a particularly important area, because it's at the back and at the bottom of the helmet, so it's not going to be seen all too well. We just cut in another loop there. It'll just help us resolve what's going on at the back here. And I think you can see with the subdiv there, it is helping with the way it's looking. And it's still not perfect because this isn't completely in line here, so we can just adjust this, just bring it back a bit so it's a little bit more straight, a little bit more flat at the back there. Just have a look at that. Yeah, that's a much cleaner edge at the back, but the topology below that, you can see a lot of lumpiness in the faces, and so we can start to fix that up a bit. So we can just go ahead, select all of these, and we can just space and relax these, just try to flatten out the area a bit more. There we go. So it looks much nicer. So the topology is still a bit of a mess, and if we just turn on the shrink wrap, fixes that up. Oh, actually, hang on. That's causing a problem down here. So it's still cleaning up that area, but some of our vertex weights have now transferred down to the new area that we've modeled. But this is a very easy thing to fix up because it would just be also applied to a handful of these faces. So we can just go through, select all these, and remove these faces from our vertex group, and you'll notice that that fixes everything up so it's no longer being affected. Just as some general cleanup, I've just sort of noticed a few errors on my model. I don't have all my edges creased properly, so I'll just fix some of that up, because otherwise it will cause issues in the normal bake, which we don't want. And I don't know why, but this area hasn't been connected with the rest of the model, so we'll just join these together. And there might be a bit of a mismatch in the topology for it now. So yeah, actually what we'll do is we'll just do it from scratch. So let's go through, we'll select the inner edge of it by selection. Let's go back, select this edge here. And we'll just apply the mirror modifier, and we're going to do this in a very cheap sort of way, and we will just do a grid fill, which looks terrible. I'll say simple blending. Actually, no. What we'll do, make it easier for Blender to figure out what's going on, is we'll just put the mirror modifier back on. And we'll just extrude, oops, not rotate, we'll extrude this across, don't want to see that. Extrude this across, we can extrude this across, it's got that. I'm just going to turn on my face orientation, cool. So we've got that going, and then we need to fill out this area. Which is doable, so yeah, now we'll just apply that. If we select all this, do a grid fill, it's going to look awful. It still looks pretty awful. So I'm just thinking, let's go 1, 2, 3. So let's add 3 here, let's add 3 loops. No. Hang on, 2 seconds. These aren't properly joined. So let's add 3 and 3, and then let's do a grid fill. As I said, kind of cheap and lazy way of doing things. Yeah, we'll just do it like that. That works. And we'll see if we can get it to work on this side. That's pretty horrendous. That's really not good. Oops. Let's see if we can't sort of just get something a little bit nicer. No. Try 10. It's still pretty bad, but okay. Oh, 9. Yeah, 8, and then there we go. That works. It's not great by any means, but it works, and that's all I'm really interested in. We'll shade it smooth, and we'll delete those faces. Alright, cool. And we don't really need to put a mirror modifier on it because we'll just join it in with the rest of the mesh. It'll apply automatically. And then we can just by distance cross those. Put the subdivision back on. There we go. Now it's integrated in our mesh. It's a bit messy, but yeah, I think it's looking much nicer. And it's going to have a great effect on our baking. It's going to make things a lot easier for us and avoid a lot of errors. I've just sort of noticed that this isn't perfect, so we'll just go through and just sort of pull this up and just keep the surface nice and curved. So now that our mesh is all nice and cleaned up, in the next episode I'll take you guys through marking this up with seams and creating our UV layout so that we can then start our baking and then take everything over into Quixel to begin our texturing process.